Welcome back. I'm Michael Bull, and this is the Commercial Real Estate Show. We're talking with Les Atkins, it's CEO of Orange Social Media Strategies, or really SMS, right?
SMS, yeah.
And one of the things that we talked about before the break is some corporate guidelines. You talked about some companies are a little skittish about using social media. What should we think about as far as guidelines for our companies?
One of the things that the biggest thing is to make sure that you're not defaming people and not bullying people or things of that nature. So you want to have those guidelines for your employees to cover yourself. So meaning that you'll see on Twitter and some of these really constant blogs, they'll say, I work for IBM, but the views expressed on this blog are not in any way associated with IBM.
So is that something we should think about our employees having on their accounts?
If you want to, I think it sometimes if they're a big blogger. So if they're a big blogger about another issue, or even some within the technology world, you see that a lot, where someone will work for like a NetApp or an Oracle, but they also have their own technology blog. If they're just an employee, they probably don't need it on their account, and because here's the thing, they're going to do it anyway. So chances of them putting it on their account is very slim to none. But if you have those guidelines in place that you have them sign, then you're usually covered as a business. That anything your employees do.
And what other guidelines should a company leader think about?
I think the other guidelines are based on the things about competitiveness and sharing compete information and market share information. I can find all that stuff online. So I think maybe companies need to kind of lay off of that. It's an old model that doesn't really work anymore, unless you have a widget that is very proprietary and things of that nature, and it's made a certain way with a certain mystery chemical. So you don't want to share that. But otherwise, I think guidelines, if you just share some generalities. Again, the neat thing about, because social media has been out there so long, even though some people might just be hearing about it today, if you Google social media guidelines, you will get a plethora of already stated guidelines from Fortune 500 companies, Fortune 100 companies, all the way down to the small business.
Okay.
So you don't really have to come up with those on your own, just copy and paste.
Okay. What are some mistakes that business people make on social media that we should avoid?
So here's a big mistake, and it's very interesting that what's going on in the political realm today. One of the biggest mistakes business people make is only sharing, if they have a very staunch opinion about their politics, is sharing that outside of personal social media. Now, here's what I mean by that. If you have a Twitter business account and you're the CEO, you don't want to share your opinion about politics on that account. Now, it's fine if you share your political opinion on your own Twitter account and they find that. But you don't really want to be that political, say, whether right or left, depending on who whether you're a Hillary fan or a Trump fan, or neither. You don't really want to really focus on those opinions from a business standpoint, because guess what? It all changes anyway. Right. And you're stuck. You don't want to be labeled in a certain thing. I'm not saying don't put your opinions out there. Just don't do it when you're creating a digital presence for your business.
Right. There's some opinions like that just don't suit well to a large business audience. It'd be like going to a party and announcing it, right?
Exactly. I mean, like if you're a fan of guns or if you're not a fan of guns, it probably wouldn't be a good thing to say, I think everyone should have a gun on your business page. Yeah. But you could say it on your personal page. And that's the really interesting thing that's happened in social media. It's people used to say, well, I don't want to say anything outside of what my business is because maybe I won't get business. Okay, that's fine in your business presence. But in your personal presence, it's okay because that's your personal opinion. People may find it because you are the CEO of the organization, but they're not going to hold it against you because that's your personal opinion. They want to know it, but they might still do business with you even if they have an opposite opinion of that.
Yeah, well, that's interesting. I think I would steer on the cautious side of that because, like you said, somebody can Google it and find it, and if it's an opinion that offends them, then what benefit did you get out of that?
Right, exactly.
I mean, it'd be like, offending in a personal situation. Why do it?
Yeah, I agree. I agree 100%.
So how can we gauge how well we're doing in a platform or with some sort of strategy in social media?
So I coined a phrase called Digifluence. And we'll have a book either at the end of this year or the beginning of the year. So I'm going to put my own plug in here.
I like that. Digifluence.
Digifluence, which is digital influence. And smarter people than I, who I really depend on, came up with a formula. And the formula is this: influence equals responses divided by base contact count times requests. So it's a formula that helps you understand your true influence in whatever social media platform.
So it's not just they bought stuff.
No, it's not just they bought stuff and how much stuff, or I want more stuff. Because here's the thing about influence.
It's not just click-throughs.
No, it's not click. It's the old click-through. And interestingly enough, I'm going to make a lot of people mad. I'm still surprised that people that do that pay-per-click and all those things are still getting money for that.
Yeah.
Because it's not about that. I can have 1,000 click-throughs. I can have 5,000 click-throughs. But how much influence do I have with those people who come to my site,
Right.
who are counted as my base contact?
Right.
If my influence, if I get 10,000, or let's just make it crazy. If I get 1 million click-throughs and I ask for a response and I get one response, then my influence is less than 1%.
Right. And we can multiply the influence if our fans, if our friends, if our customers are sharing our information and talking about us, right?
Exactly. And that's the whole point about engaging and really counting on the influence, not looking at the numbers.
Right. All right. Well, stay tuned. We're going to have some closing tips for social media for business. Stay with us. I'm Michael Bull. This is the Commercial Real Estate Show. The Commercial